Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined as always by Matt Moreno. And Matt, we got an interesting headline from ESPN. ESPN posted an article recently talking about who has had the best off seasons, who has had the worst off seasons, and the headline is the Dodgers got the worst offseason grade of any team, and we'll dive in a little bit what that means. But I'm curious for you, Matt, when you see the headline itself, Dodgers worst offseason grade, what goes through your mind?
I laugh a little bit only because the offseason was, like a month. And really, if you want to boil it down even shorter, it was a few days before the lockout began.
Yeah.
So I guess, on one hand, I wasn't surprised because they did lose Corey Seager to the Texas Rangers and Max Scherzer to the New York Mets, obviously. There's still Clayton Kershaw's available to sign once the lockout ends, Kenley Jansen. The Dodgers did re-sign Chris Taylor.
Yeah.
And, added Andrew Heaney. Those were Chris Taylor obviously being the biggest move so far at this point. Andrew Heaney, I think the team obviously is hoping will pan out either as rotation depth or kind of a swingman out of the bullpen. But really, it was funny. I think I guess you could argue why I don't know if I would have given them the worst grade. I think maybe you could say, okay, fine, they're going to be in the bottom tier because they still have so many holes. But to give them the worst grade, I thought was, a little aggressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, Scherzer is gone, Seager is gone, Andrew Heaney is in, Chris Taylor is back, Daniel Hudson, the other sort of major league level signing that the Dodgers have made. Well, here's what ESPN was actually saying. Basically, they listed the criteria as how much each team's chances to win a pennant in 2022 has changed over the offseason based on a simulation they ran. So they ran 10,000 simulations with last year's rosters. They ran 10,000 simulations with current rosters. And the Dodgers decreased by just about 800 pennants. So 8% decrease, which is more than double the second place team. Here's the funniest part. Here's my favorite part of the whole thing. You dig into this. The Dodgers still won the most pennants in this entire simulation, over 4,000. And oh, by the way, that was a gap of almost 2,000 over the second place team here. So the Dodgers still projecting 105 wins. Yes, they've had the worst offseason. Yes, they have lost the most pennants. And guess what? They're still clearly far and above the best team in baseball, which to me is hilarious.
Yeah, it's almost like they got penalized through the simulator for going from arguably being a great team to, well, now they're just very good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And again, I think it's worth pointing out the Chris Taylor piece where it's like, well, what are we comparing it to? Because, yes, Chris Taylor is back, but, at the end of the regular season, that was not the case. So in some ways, it's an interesting thing to navigate. But again, I think the headline is here. This just goes to show how good the Dodgers are, how deep they are. Yes, they can lose Seager. They can lose Scherzer. They can lose Jansen, they could lose Kershaw, and guess what? As currently constructed, the Dodgers are still far and away, according to projections, the best team in baseball, which I think as a Dodger fan should you make you sleep at night. Looking through these simulations, one other thing that I found fascinating, this simulation does not like the San Francisco Giants. The San Francisco Giants are projecting 76 wins based on this. Again, the Dodgers are at 105, so that's almost a 30-game gap in the division that they're projecting. And they projected just 16 titles from the Giants out of 10,000 simulations. I've said all along, I know what my eyes saw and how good the Giants were, but my brain can't compute based on what I saw on paper. That was another fascinating thing to me, just digging through some of the other teams mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. I know on one of our other videos doing kind of the season recap stuff, we discussed the Giants a lot and the Padres and kind of what the NL West would look like this year. And, I do agree with you. I don't expect the Giants to replicate what they did last year. I think, they were obviously a surprise team. They put together a remarkable season. Buster Posey was retiring.
Yeah.
And like we touched on in the past, they had their success last year predicated on a lot of veterans, kind of having resurgent years, which testament to them for doing that. But is it something that they're going to be able to sustain again and replicate? I don't necessarily know. And so it wouldn't really surprise me to see. I guess, only winning 76 games, that would be a surprise. But if the Giants do have a pretty significant drop-off, I wouldn't be shocked by that.
Totally agree. Well, let me end with this, circling back to the Dodgers. 105 wins for the roster is currently constructed. Again, this is not projecting any re-signings of Kershaw or Jansen or Freddie Freeman. None of this. Like, none of those guys are currently on this roster. Now, of course, it's worth mentioning, those guys aren't on any roster, right? So, like, this is a league in which Freddie Freeman is not on a baseball team. Clayton Kershaw is not on a baseball team. So it's worth pointing out some of these things. But how surprised were you to see the Dodgers as successful in this simulation? Because I think, I'll let you answer and then I'll come back. How surprised were you to see a team projected to have this much success?
That's surprising because they have, in my opinion, a lot of questions in their starting rotation and pitching depth. Kind of, I guess the bullpen is okay, but we'll focus on the starting rotation. There are a lot of question marks in there. So to see, maybe in the simulation, did they turn injuries off type thing where you're not factoring any of that in? Because if the Dodgers, as currently constructed, suffer any sort of injury to a starting pitcher, they're going to be in a world of trouble.
Yeah, normally these factor in sort of how many games projected. I know like Steamer, which is one of the tools they used, is sort of bullish on Cody Bellinger rebounding, which I think matters. But I've said all along, like, I guess I'm still not surprised because there's multiple layers that we have to think about this as fans. On one level, we are comparing 2022's current roster to 2021's, and it's like, oh my gosh, we're going to be worse. But if you just evaluate 2022's roster in a vacuum, and we've gone through it, again, Max Muncy's health, who knows, but let's assume health. You've got Max Muncy, you've got Gavin Lux, you've got Trey Turner, Justin Turner, Will Smith, Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger, AJ Pollock. That's an unbelievable lineup. Like, you could argue the best lineup in all of baseball. And I didn't even mention Chris Taylor, who's probably your starting second baseman in that situation. So you've got the best lineup. You look at pitching, you've got Walker Buehler and Julio Urias. Might be, if not the best, one of the best 1-2 punches in all of baseball. Those are two guys that most people have in the top 10-ish pitchers in all of baseball. The Dodgers have two of those. Dustin May is out. Andrew Heaney is in. Tony Gonsolin is in. So I understand that. And then I would even argue at the bullpen level, I think the Dodgers are going to be really, really good. I think it's going to be a top 5 bullpen. So, yes, it's hard to compare to last year, but when you look at a team and say, we've got a top 5 bullpen, we have a top 3 offense, and even at a starting pitching level, yes, the depth isn't there. And again, we're only looking in a vacuum. We're not projecting anything. But at the same time, I've got Walker Buehler and Julio Urias, 2 of the top 10 pitchers in all of baseball. So I feel good at that. So I think, is it hard for people to navigate playing the comparison game versus just looking in a vacuum? Like, to me, I think that's where the root of the issue is.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And inherently, you always kind of, when projecting how good a team might be this year, you do just look back to last year, maybe the last 2 years, if you extend it a little bit. You summed it up great. If you do look at just 2022 as its own, the Dodgers obviously have a ton of talent on their team and are plenty capable of winning, the NL West and potentially going on, another deep postseason run. And hey, maybe they'll become the poster child for new bullpen games like the Tampa Bay Rays have been. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, there you go. The headline is ESPN gives Dodgers the worst offseason grade. They said their team has decreased their World Series chances more than anyone else over this current offseason. And Matt's pointed out it's not over yet. Keep that in mind. But the secondary headline here, and if you're a Dodger fan, maybe the primary headline is the Dodgers are still the best team in baseball by a long shot. So let us know what you think below. The 2022 roster, do you agree? Is it as good as maybe the projections are making it out to be? Let us know in the comments below. That's Matt Moreno. My name's Jeff Spiegel. We appreciate you watching. Check out DodgerBlue.com. DodgerBlue1958 everywhere on social media. Make sure to subscribe. Ring the notification bell here as well. We'll see you soon.